Travolting presents The Fraser's Edge. Hosted by Jeff Sweeney and Stuart Elmore. Covering The Poison Rose. Again, with special guest, Kathy Shue. The year was 2022. I had just finished up with, a 70-episode investigation into the works of John Travolta. I had to finish it up by talking about a movie called The Poison Rose. I thought I was done with that period of my life, but all things have a way of coming back. Now I found myself year on, and here I am again. Once again confronted with the motion picture. The Poison Rose!
The Poison Rose.
That's right, folks. Welcome back to the Poison Cast.
Is that the joke?
Was that the joke?
No, that was not the joke. That was not the joke.
Okay. I was like, wait a minute.
No, that was not the joke. I'm not going to blow all my comedy that early. You got to dole it out over time,
Yeah, like this
It's
whole
like precious minerals. You can't just dump them all at once.
yeah, like this podcast. We can't.
It's like oil. You can't just refine it all at once to take over the town of Galveston, Texas. You need to dole it out over time.
Was that
in
the
your
joke?
Nasty scheme. No.
We'll be
I'm
waiting for this joke.
No, it's coming. The specific thing in
Folks,
the movie.
Jeff told us where we started recording to Kathy and I. I have a really funny joke that I'm going to tell at some point in the podcast. I just want to let you guys know so you laugh at it. So we're waiting.
We're waiting.
We're trying to wait on when this joke will happen. So when it does happen, we deliberately
really laugh.
There's going to be
really
so
laugh.
many red herring jokes throughout this episode that you guys are going to think is the joke. And then when you start laughing really hard, y'all be like, that
Jeff,
was the joke.
Your comedy is red herring jokes.
Yes.
That is your comedy.
I like red herrings.
Yeah.
You know what else has a lot of red herrings?
This movie
This movie.
that we're covering again.
Yeah, the amount of times that a major plot development is introduced in this movie, and you're like, oh, this is going to be it, and then they never mention it again.
Nope.
Remember, what was her name? Mary Poole?
What happened to her? What happened to her?
She died off screen.
The number was
died.
disconnected, and that's all we hear about it.
Right.
She switched a T-Mobile to Verizon Wireless, and that was all we heard from her.
Wait, who hired him to find Mary Poole?
Her niece?
I thought it was Mary who hired Travolta to find Barbara.
Oh, Barbara Poole.
Barbara Van Poole.
Oh, Barbara Van Poole.
Because I think the woman who hired him was named Mary, because that was her niece.
Okay.
Yeah, Barbara is Mary's aunt, and so she's like, "I want you to go find my aunt."
But we never seen Barbara, did we?
Nope.
No.
We saw her grave.
Right.
With some resemblance of a body, maybe.
Yeah, we saw a hand.
That's about
It
it.
was possibly her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, folks. So, as you all remember, obviously, because you're all scholars of this podcast, we talked about the Poison Rose once in our Travolta days. But Stuart and I, our memory's a little fuzzy nowadays. And so, when it came time and we realized we're going to have to talk about this movie again because of Brendan Fraser's involvement in the project, we thought we might need an expert to come in to talk about John Travolta. Because, he's such a major part of this movie.
Hello.
And here's Kathy as our Travolta expert
Thank you, gentlemen.
to help guide us through Travolta in this movie. Because we have to put our brain power towards Brendan right now.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, gosh.
Jeff, you remember your comments the last time we talked about Brendan?
Yes, and I'm going to rescind almost all of them.
Okay.
It was painful. It was painful to. Well, everybody was, but. And poor Ella.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember I had some comments about Ella in the last episode.
No.
I might have to rescind those comments. Actually, I don't think I do.
What?
Oh, I just said I listened to our last episode. Because the last time we covered this episode was when Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was coming out.
Yeah.
And I said Ella's acting in this movie is like she's acting against like a blue or green screen. because she's so very like stiff on screen. But the problem with that is that she's not acting on a blue or green screen.
Oh,
She's acting
gosh.
opposite her dad.
She's opposite of her dad.
I know. I felt so bad for her.
Yeah, and then Famke Janssen, which I don't think I said anything bad about Famke Janssen.
I want to like just quickly. We might have touched on this last time, but this movie plays as a twist that Ella Bleu Travolta's character is the daughter of John Travolta.
Right.
Oh my god.
Right.
And I don't know how you can expect that to be a twist when it's his actual daughter.
Right. I don't know.
Famke Janssen's like, "You're the father," and it's like, "Oh, no shit." It's like,
I mean, that's really giving her a chance to like not have to act.
yeah.
But it was still so uncomfortable, even though it was her father. Like, I mean, I feel like maybe he's setting her up to like try to be a good actress because it's her father.
Mama?
Like, I don't know.
Did you kill my husband? Are you familiar with Famke Janssen, the actress?
No, who is that?
So I think the last time we brought it up was we mentioned it because Famke Janssen plays a number of different roles, but she's also very well known as being Jean Grey from the old X-Men movies, the live action ones.
Okay.
But here's the problem. It's like a lot of people wouldn't like know that or recognize it. I didn't certainly recognize it because, and I'm going to put this in like the nicest way possible because I don't like condone like talking bad about people's like plastic surgery and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, is this the mom? Well, the mom was from Nip and Tuck.
Right. Yeah. So like that's
Yes.
and then
I know.
Yeah,
and she's so pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, I know her from Nip and Tuck.
I try to be as delicate as I can be on it because I think on the last time we covered the podcast we tried to be delicate and then I don't know how delicate we actually were, but yeah,
It's a little rough looking.
it's a little
Yeah.
rough looking. Just the amount that's been done, but you know what I thought about, Jeff? Is like when did the Wolverine come out? The James Mangold Wolverine.
2013.
Okay, so that's 5 years before this movie comes
Yes.
out. Okay. Because Famke Janssen like still looks like Jean Grey from X-Men 3 in 2013,
Yes.
but then looks like this 5 years later. So something happened between those
Yeah.
5 years. She did
I
that.
don't know why people do that.
Yeah.
yeah, you know, when it comes to like, you know, plastic surgeries, there's a wide variety. There's like subtle things
Right.
that you can do to just like, you know, decrease whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah.
It's always confusing to me when it's like the really big cheeks. Like I don't know if it's a botched thing or
I don't know because like I don't know if that what we see like how Famke Janssen looks in this movie is something she had done or a reaction to something she had done. Because my thought process is like I think like for the most part like plastic surgery, like I think for the most part you're not walking out of the operating room being like, what the hell did you do to me? Like
Right.
you know that you're paying a lot of money for that.
Right.
I'm guessing what happens is it's like years over time you get something done is when it starts to like degrade and stuff.
But I think you're right. I think though, if you go and you stop after, like, it becomes an addiction,
Yeah.
and that's when they start to kind of look so different.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
putting it kindly, because I know we're being PC
Yeah.
about the
trying to be nice.
Try to
yeah,
be
just
nice.
trying to be nice. But
yeah. I never want to like shame folks for, you know.
yeah, oh, no, I get
if
it
they wanna feel
completely.
more
It's their
comfortable.
choice, definitely.
Yeah.
No, I feel the same way.
But it do be looking rough.
Yes.
It do be
Yeah.
looking a bit rough.
Well.
Like Ella Blue's Travolta's acting in this movie.
Mhm.
Look can be rough.
Yes.
Well, my guy, he's a little rough in this one too.
What'd you
I
think
mean-
of the hair?
Oh, no. no, I did not like the hair.
The
I
lion's
did-
mane?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
Did you know that was a choice? Did you know he meant for the hair to look like that? That was not an accident.
And then when he's in the fight, it's all like
Oh my gosh.
scuffled. But at the end, like when he's, I think when he's not at the end, but when Ella comes to the hotel room and says like, "I knew you were my dad."
Yeah.
It's like perfect. It's
Yeah.
all. Do you remember that at all?
Kinda.
It's like it's like the best it looks
Yeah.
in this movie.
Right.
And it's-
Yeah. Yeah. It was a deliberate choice to make it look like a lion's mane.
Oh, that was a deliberate choice.
It was a deliberate choice to make it look like that.
Okay,
which
John.
is why I like put it, I think when we were doing the hair ranking and Travolting, I put it like near the bottom of the list because it's not an accident. Like
No,
they
okay.
wanted it to look like that. And they thought they woke up every day, walked in the hair trailer, looked in the mirror when it was done. I'm like, perfect. Like,
Really, when you look right at it, like it does have lion-esque properties to it.
oh my
Oh god. Like
Yeah.
it does surround the head.
yeah,
kinda
it's a
does, you're
mane.
right. Oh,
My
man.
goodness. Is there a scene he's not drinking bourbon?
Yes, but I think he's smoking about 18 cigarettes in those scenes.
Okay. I was like, I actually was kind of looking up for that this watch through. I was like, wait, okay, he's drinking bourbon in this scene. Next scene. Okay, he's drinking bourbon again. Man should have like liver cirrhosis or something for the amount of bourbon he's drinking every day.
And like you know, you see a noir movie and you expect that it's part of the plot that, like, you know, he drinks and smokes and gambles a lot.
Right.
I like that they start this movie off
yeah.
by him saying it.
That's funny.
Right.
I thought the same thing, Jeff. That was funny.
He's just like, yeah, I drink too much. And I'm like,
Smoke too
"Alright,
much.
buddy, just
Gamble too much.
I could have figured that out, but
It's like, oh my God. He drinks, he smokes, he gambles. What other great qualities are a part of this man? Well, it's the hair, and he's a private detective. Did not see that one coming.
you know, I've been watching a lot of the old James Bond movies recently.
Oh.
And the thing I like about them is how many times Bond gets clowned on. As
Yeah.
he just, because every scene he like comes in, he orders a martini. He's very dashing.
Right.
And then like some Spectre agent walks in and is like, "Oh yes, my name is Somerset," and like shake his hand. He's like, "Oh yeah, sounds good." And then like, of course, they go into a room together. The guy hits Bond in the back of the head, and Bond goes unconscious and wakes up tied up. And it's like, well, maybe if you were drinking martinis the entire time and just believing guys when they come up to you.
Do you think when there's like a new like agent coming into like, it's like MI6 is what he works for,
Yeah.
right? You think when there's a new agent like pool coming into MI6 and they're reading like the man book and it's like no drinking on the job, especially not martinis, like where did this rule come from? It's like, oh, this old agent we had, he was a menace. he drinking martinis on the job all the time.
But it's like when you watch the newer Bonds, like he's very hyper competent.
Yeah.
And like he doesn't really fall for tricks as much. And when he gets like taken down or subdued, it's usually like he's just overpowered.
Yeah.
But in like the old ones, the amount of times he just like buys some guy's story, walks into like death laser room, and just escapes by accident.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a lot of them. We just went to go see Mission Impossible.
I really enjoyed that.
I did too.
The,
I did too. I mean, it's kind of, I know it's not the same, but it's like spies or whatever.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know, but it was so much fun.
mm-hmm.
It was.
It's so much fun, and he's so committed in those movies.
Yeah, it was. But there was a
TC.
little humor in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I laughed a couple
The
times.
God, what? I just thought of a scene that I liked in that movie. No, I forgot it. Or it was a great joke.
When the bomb went off, that's Oppenheimer.
That's Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
I'll make you laugh. So it's coming back to Jeff. When I went to go see Rocky in the theaters, I went with my grandpa. My grandpa was like one of the people I went with.
Yeah.
It's falling off. And he, like we always tease because in the show he yelled, "Hit him, you son of a bitch!" And I was doing that in Mission Impossible. I was like, "Oh no!" I like scream it out loud, "Watch out!" You know. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh! And Richie's like, "Oh my God, stop!" Like Grandpa Rizza. So
Yeah.
I mean, I probably am about my grandpa's age when we went to see Rocky. And I was a little kid. I'm like so embarrassed. I'm like, my grandpa's screaming.
You have to
That's me.
continue that.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
want to try to fix your headphones?
Want to help me a little bit?
I'm just going to tighten them off a little bit.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's a little bit loose here.
Thank you.
It might be a little bit better.
I think, are we just avoiding talking about the poison rose?
I think we are.
It's okay.
We can keep avoiding it. Right?
I'll do the Brendan corner real quick.
Oh, that's a good question. Are we going to do like Brendan and Travolting corners? And we're going to sum
we've
up.
covered the Travolta corner. for this
Okay, so
movie.
I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about Brendan.
Oh,
So the thing about Brendan in this movie
The thing about Brendan.
The thing about Brendan is that he hasn't been in a movie in 5 years.
Okay.
When this comes out, he was in The Nut Job in 2014, which is an animated movie that he did the voice for like in 2013.
Okay.
Which was a year he was in 5 movies.
Yeah.
It was like he had just gotten through a divorce settlement. He was, in therapy for sexual assault. He was in surgery for various back problems. And so he needed money, so he did a lot of movies in 2013.
Okay.
And then he just doesn't work in movies again for 5 years.
He mostly does like 1 episodes of TV shows, which is like a week of work probably.
Yeah.
And he does that like, I want to say like 7 times.
Yeah, he does that, and then he does Texas Rising, which was like, he was in every episode of that, I believe.
He was in 5 episodes
5
of Texas
episodes.
Rising, which actually Texas Rising is only 5
Yeah.
episodes. If I'm not, it's a miniseries.
But he's working in like, he's not really working. He's just kind of, doing stuff to kind of stay afloat.
Yeah.
And then
Oh God! Now you guys are gonna make me feel sorry for him because
I would say
We're going
don't
to make you love this guy.
we don't have to feel sorry for him anymore because he did win an Oscar at the end of it.
yeah, great.
So like we can like
But just in that period, now I'm feeling bad thinking what I'm thinking, like how bad it was.
What were you thinking?
I was just thinking it was embarrassingly terrible.
yeah. Because the first time we watched this movie, I kind of was more positive on his performance because at least he's doing something in this movie.
Yeah, I remember.
Like
that.
everyone else is just kind of walking into a scene and just saying lines. At least he's doing something. Watching it now, I'm like, oh no, he's just really bad in this movie. He's just in a different
I
category.
could kind of see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It does seem like he's a little bit more committed
Yeah,
to it. Yeah.
He's at least committed to this character.
Right.
I love this, Jeff, because I put the stake in the ground that Brendan was not good in this
Yeah.
movie when we first recorded it. You're like, oh no, he's like doing something. It's good.
And I'm like, he's just doing something?
And now he's changing his mind, and I'm right.
You are right.
Kind of like Game of Thrones season 8. Anyway,
Well,
so this.
Yeah, you both are right. I mean, now I'm seeing a little bit Jeff's way. Like he was doing something.
Yeah.
And
Not a
that's what
good
I think
thing.
almost made me cringe more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was doing something, and he seemed like like somebody that was actually kind of serious about
Yeah.
the role, and the role is just
Egregious.
The thing is, like, nothing, like, it had to have been, like, his decision making.
Yeah.
Because nothing about that role, at least in the script, like, set, needed him to be those things.
The
Like,
thing I like is that there's no character in this movie who is who has like tics or things. It's all like he's the rich town magnate. He's a hardboiled detective. She's a femme fatale, and it's just like cool. And then it's like, but him, he is a mental doctor, a flamboyant Texan psychiatrist who's also a meth dealer.
Who's also a meth dealer. Yes.
And so, like, I'm gonna do his voice.
No, you're not.
I'm gonna do his voice.
okay. I can't wait.
Jeff.
Just
wanna-
because every scene Brendan Fraser walks in this room, I'm like, oh look, it's Brendan. He's like, hey, how you doing? My name is Thomas Mitchell. We're gonna deal some meth today. I'm like, whoa, whoa.
I love Stuart looking at Jeff.
We're going to get canceled. But anyway, back to the context corner. This is the first, like, real movie he's done since, like, 2013. So it's been, like, almost, like, it's been 5 years since The Nut Job, and now The Poison Rose comes out.
Yeah.
And he has another movie come out the same year, Line of Descent,
Yes.
which we'll talk about next week.
Yeah, he basically does like 3. I'm just gonna call them paycheck movies when he's
Yeah.
back in movies. But with the exception of The Secret of Karma, he does kind of like is putting the work into this in Line of Descent.
Yeah, right.
For good or for bad.
He doesn't seem like the type of guy that would not
Phone
do
it
that.
in, yeah.
Yeah, he just doesn't seem like that.
He like desperately really wants to like be back in movies.
Yeah.
And after, he does these 3 kind of paycheck vehicles, we'll talk about, he does come back with, the run of No Sun and Move the Whale and Killers of the Flower Moon. Last episode of the show is going to be a Martin Scorsese movie. I'm so excited.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
Wait, what movie is it?
Scorsese has a movie coming out this October called Killers of the Flower Moon
Okay.
about the Osage murders in like the 1920s in
really?
Texas. And Brendan Fraser's in it in a smaller role, but he is in it, so it gets to be our final episode.
Oh, that's
thankfully.
awesome.
But he does reattain success, and he wins an Oscar for it, which we talked about.
That's kind of crazy, guys, that you guys picked him for this, and then he won an Oscar. I kept saying, "How is this happening?" They, I knew when you guys picked him, I was like, eh.
Yeah,
and then you guys changed his luck. I mean, I really believe this.
It is. I mean, hey, next actor we cover.
Yeah, it didn't work out for Travolta.
No, I mean, come on.
Yet.
Yeah, right.
Kathy, are you aware of what one of John Travolta's... Well, actually, I'll wait till we get to a character in this movie before I bring up what one of his movies coming up is. When we start
I think you'll be excited
when we start going through the plot, there's a specific actor in this movie who will lead me into this tangent.
Okay.
But yeah, Brendan, it's his first movie back. He seemingly is excited to do this.
And he makes a choice.
He does make choices. And he kind of comes out of this, thankfully, unscathed, because no one sees this movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So he doesn't...
Except us.
Yeah.
Twice.
It's not like Darren Aronofsky saw this and was like, all right, no more whale for you, buddy.
You know who has no excuse for being in this movie?
Who?
Morgan Freeman.
I'm in this movie. My friend, Andy Dufresne.
It's a quote you always go to when doing Morgan Freeman. It's always my friend Andy Dufresne. That's the only one
best.
you do. You don't do any other Morgan Freeman quotes like "all the powers of God."
So yesterday I read the because I've been reading Stephen King a lot.
Interesting.
And so I'm trying to read all of his books. It's like slow going. There's so many of them.
It's like I'll check back in when you're 60.
I'm about 15 books in.
Okay.
No shit.
But I read I read The Shawshank Redemption, or Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption. And it's funny because that character is very much established being Irish with red hair in the book, which is why he's red.
Are you about to regurgitate an IMDb trivia fact about this movie, Jeff?
No, I'm talking, and he's like Irish in the book.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so when I was reading the book, they keep emphasizing that he's Irish.
Yeah.
But I can only read that book as Morgan Freeman.
Right.
And so when it got to the point where he's like, my friend, Andy Dufresne. I was like, ah!
Not my friend Andy Dufresne. You couldn't get it to that. Just a really thick Irish accent.
But I just wanted to quickly say, because I read that book yesterday.
Okay.
Oh.
So it was fresh in my mind when I said my friend Andy Dufresne and my friend Morgan Dufresne.
How was the book?
It was excellent. It was so good. It's only like it's a novella.
Yeah.
So it's pretty short. It only took me like 2.5 hours to read it.
I should buy that for Richie. He loves the movie. He loves Stephen King. I don't know if he ever read that though.
Yeah, it's I got it in you can get a bigger book called Different Seasons.
Okay.
And it's 4 short stories or novellas by Stephen King.
Okay.
And one of them is The Shawshank Redemption. One of them is The Green Mile.
Oh.
And I think one of them is... Let me see. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. Green Mile is not in this one. Green Mile is a different book by him.
Okay.
But, so the 4 things in it are Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption, which gets turned into The Shawshank Redemption. Apt Pupil, which gets turned into a movie with Ian McKellen called Apt Pupil. And then The Body, which gets turned into Stand By Me.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's actually a really good collection of novellas.
That's interesting. Like I said, I don't know exactly what he's read over all these years, but one is his favorite, and he always wants Mary Grace to read it, and I can't really remember what it is.
I'm trying to think.
It's not Cujo. No. Anyway, I mean.
It'd be very interesting if it was Cujo.
Really?
I don't know.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't Cujo. It's something that he really always wants her to read. I don't know if she has.
Is it The Dead Zone? Maybe. No.
I can't remember.
I'll have to ask him about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Morgan Freeman, strange to be in this movie.
Are they buddies, John Travolta and Morgan? Okay, who wants to make this movie? Is it John Travolta?
I believe.
I mean, obviously with his daughter in it. I mean, he's got some kind of pull in making this movie, or is it his production?
This movie's directed by George Gallo, who kind of starts off with a somewhat successful screenwriting career.
Okay.
He writes Midnight Run.
Oh.
And Wise Guys with Danny DeVito and Joe Piscopo. He
Okay.
comes up with the pitch for Bad Boys, the Will Smith, Martin Lawrence one. And then he starts trying to get into directing and never does anything that any of us would recognize.
Okay.
His recent run has basically been like, I'll say this very nicely, like old man, like movies about old men being like, remember the old days. Like he directed a movie called The Comeback Trail, which I'm going to show you the poster for, and you can infer your own thoughts about this movie.
I mean, I like old men trying to stay young, but let's see.
All right, here we go. This is the poster for The Comeback Trail.
Oh
my
boy.
God.
Oh no. Who? No. No.
One word. Yeah. It's all
Wait, who is that in the middle?
De Niro?
No, De Niro.
It's De Niro, Tommy Lee Jones, and Morgan Freeman.
Oh no.
Don't call it a comeback. ... Okay, call it a comeback is the tagline.
What?
I mean, those are good actors.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if because Morgan Freeman winds up in a lot of movies like this around this time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just like they get to that age and it's just like, all right, I just kind of want to, build a nest egg for my kids.
True.
Like there's the Bruce Willis situation where like he, got a life-threatening illness that he knew was going to mean that he couldn't act in like 3 years.
Right.
So he did, I think, 20 movies in a year.
I didn't know that.
Just so that he like built up so much money so that he could just disperse it to his family and then retire.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, now that's sad.
It is sad.
Yeah.
But Morgan Freeman, like, he's mostly just, it's this, I mean, here's his run. Poison Rose, Angel Has Fallen, The Comeback Trail, Coming to America, Vanquish, Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, Paradise Highway, The Minute You Wake Up Dead, The Ritual Killer, A Good Person. Like,
see, I don't want to know that about him. I mean, it's okay.
Yeah.
But
Sorry.
like, no, that's okay. But yeah, I mean, I consider him a pretty good actor.
Mm-hmm. And he still puts in good work. Like, Morgan Freeman phoning it in is still better than most actors, like, really pushing the bounds.
For sure.
Yeah, I think you actually said this in the first time we covered it, was like Ella Bleu Travolta's like trying and just not. Whereas like you could tell like Morgan Freeman is just kind of like giving you like a standard Morgan Freeman performance, but it's still like kind of good.
Yeah, like when's he back?
Right. Well, he's the
Right.
best one in the right.
Yeah.
He's the only one that's like, okay,
Like
I'm
a-
not cringing watching him.
Yeah.
But
like a dumb line like "I never lose, Carson."
Right.
But like he can say it like it's actually like I believe him. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I feel the same way about it.
Yeah, he just like brings a natural gravitas to everything that he does.
Right.
Which I wish I could say about Brendan in this movie.
I wish I could say about John Travolta in this movie.
Yeah.
How did you feel about John in this movie?
I'm making
Your eyes
the
just like
cringy
widened.
the cringy emoji like. How did I feel? I felt sorry for him. I'm kind of getting used to him doing this though. He's just cheesy now.
The mean mugging.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, it looks like he's having some kind of fun. He's bringing his daughter along.
We're gonna make a movie.
Okay.
Tell that to Ella Bleu in her bedroom.
When did they make this movie? What year was it?
Came out in 2019. They probably filmed it in 2018.
And when did Kelly pass away?
2020, so a year after this. Yeah.
I just feel so bad for them.
Mm-hmm.
So
I watched a movie yesterday called For Love of the Game.
yeah,
And Kelly, I'd never seen it before.
Yeah.
And Kelly Preston's in it, and she's lovely in that movie.
she
It's
is.
just- yeah.
That's with Kevin Costner, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. I like that movie.
It's
it's sweet. I mean, it's a good movie to watch when you're just don't have anything else to do.
It's a movie where I was like, oh, this is okay. And then the last 40 minutes are the most like emotionally charged baseball game of my entire life, and I was like weeping by the end of it.
Isn't she watching it in the bar?
Yeah, she's watching
Yeah.
in the bar. It's like Kevin Costner's trying to decide if he's going to retire or keep playing baseball.
Right.
The team's getting sold. He's on the verge of pitching a perfect game for the first time in his career, which might obviously be at the end of his career. and there's like so much tension and emotion with each time the inning ends. It goes to a flashback of a time in his life. It's directed by Sam Raimi.
Wow.
It's very weird. And then the end, he like pitches the perfect game. And I'm like, yes, yes. John C. Reilly runs on the field and picks him up. Everyone's crying. I'm crying.
I'm crying.
Even the Yankee fans in the stadium are like, I gotta give it to him. I gotta give it to him.
What was the name of the movie?
For love of the game.
For Love of the Game. I'm gonna check it out.
It's like ultimate dad movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know me, Jeff?
Yeah, I know you.
So that means you would like it?
I probably would.
You would probably like it.
Yeah, I think you would then.
I'm an earnest, like, family, fathers and sons type film lover.
Oh, then you would like it. Yeah.
It's one of those movies where you watch the whole thing and you're like, yeah, this is all right. And then you like for like 20 minutes, you're like, this is the best movie ever. And then it ends and you're like, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I've watched it. And I haven't watched the whole thing over again, but if it's on, I will watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the, I mean, any like baseball movie with Kevin Costner, you just
so
just
true.
put it on.
He's just
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy
He
to
really
do it.
is.
Do we want to dive into the plot of
It's
this?
been 30 minutes. We've been doing a great job not talking about this movie.
Well, I really want to get to at least one or two things in the plot.
Okay.
All right.
Um,
At this point, ladies and gentlemen, we now direct you to the link at the bottom of the description. Go listen to our first episode of Travolting. Thank you very much for listening. Kathy, do you want anything to plug?
what if we did just splice in the entire previous episode at this point, and then come back to it at the
If
end?
you don't think I'm going to bring back some clips.
We have to
God.
talk about John Travolta's accent, though.
Yes.
I texted Jeff yesterday, so we're watching. He's very what you guys are doing in the beginning, whisper, PI, and then all of a sudden he turns into Bud Ewing. Or what is it? No, what did it? What Oh wait, hold
I
on.
got the name.
Buford
Ewing
Davis. He turns in. I'm watching my husband. I go, oh my gosh, it's Bud. It is Bud from Urban Cowboy.
Oh,
Back
yeah.
to business.
He just totally turned that that accent on.
Yeah.
He did.
All right, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to figure out this business about a poison rose.
Well, you're the sheriff, aren't you?
So he like slowly gets his Texas accent back. I mean, is it from the beginning?
Daddy loves you.
He has it a little bit at the beginning, but the more it's like the one choice he makes in this movie,
The more he's in Texas,
the more Texan his accent becomes.
the more Texas he becomes.
Dunking his donut in the coffee is Texas.
Oh, my God.
Oh my gosh.
I'm
come
going
on.
to show you how they eat donuts in L.A. because they don't.
Did we just steal Jeff's joke? Like,
No, you did not steal my joke.
does it have anything, do donuts have anything to do with your joke?
Nothing to do with my joke.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the difference is my jokes are funny.
Whoa,
Hey,
whoa.
whoa.
I
Shots
mean,
fired.
you know what? Nothing against Jeff, but I do. Now, I don't think you're corny, Jeff, but
This is about to be brutal.
I love a corny joke. I always laugh at a corny joke. So, me and Jeff, I thought Jeff was funny from the first moment I seen him. I think you were dressed up as Batman.
I was. That's
And
true.
I'm like, this guy's great. I mean, this is the corniest thing I ever seen.
Yeah.
But that's my thing. So
I'm very corny.
I don't want to say you're corny, but in a
No, I'm
funny
corny.
way. In a fun way.
Corny in a funny way.
A funny way. So
Yeah, I got a joke coming up for you.
You keep building it up like a corny dad. It's
I
like,
know. Now I'm really getting nervous.
Oh, these folks aren't going to know what's going to hit them. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so ready to not react to this
Yeah.
joke.
So right away, we're introduced. He's, a private detective who drinks too much, smokes too much, and gambles too much. He's in deep with the sharks.
He said,
And he has a cat named Raymond.
was a drinker.
Oh yeah, he has a cat. That's right. He's like, hold this cat.
Yeah. And then suddenly all these mobsters show up
Yes.
at his apartment.
And they chase him.
They chase him, and he runs into one of them who's named a big guy named Nick the Giant Bodyguard. This is how he's credited.
What's his real name?
The actor playing him is Nick
Yep,
Vallelonga.
I knew it. I knew his first name was going to be like the same thing.
And his name is Nick Vallelonga. He is well known for winning the Academy Award for writing The Green Book in 2018.
Shit.
What?
His dad is Tony Lip from The Sopranos and many other things. Also the character in Green Book.
Tony Lip in the Green and Sopranos.
He's this guy. He's in The Godfather and Goodfellas as well, but in smaller roles.
Oh, yes.
So the Tony, I think I did the same thing on the last time we talked about this movie.
I think so.
But Nick Vallelonga is the screenwriter of Green Book, and he's also just like he plays heavies in a lot of mob movies. His dad, Tony Lip, was in The Sopranos, was in Goodfellas, was in The Godfather. Before that, he was a driver in the South. And so Green Book is a movie where Viggo Mortensen is playing Tony Lip, the actor.
Okay, I do know what you're talking about. Because you're saying Green Book, I'm still thinking Green Mile, but okay, I know.
It's kind of this weird, like, circular thing.
Yes.
In theory, they should make a sequel to Green Book about Viggo Mortensen growing up and working on The Sopranos. And then getting old and his son making Green Book about him. And it's like movie within a movie. We just keep the cycle going.
And then you have Viggo Mortensen like coaching another actor who's playing himself, and you'd be like, no, it's Gabagool.
Every scene in Green Book is like he's in like he orders like a meatball sub.
So the question, Jeff, sorry to cut you off. So if Viggo Mortensen's the one who plays Tony Lip, who's the actor that plays Viggo Mortensen playing Tony Lip?
Well, that's what we got to figure out.
Right.
But like every scene in Green Book is like he walks into some like deep south like store or restaurant or whatever, and he orders a meatball sub. And then Mahershala Ali walks in, and the guy's like, "We don't serve your kind here." And Viggo's like, "What's the big deal, huh? Like, what's this about in the South? Why the South still racist? We don't gotta worry about this, huh?"
I'm just from Brooklyn, you know.
He's from the Bronx.
It's the Bronx.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the Bronx.
It's every scene in that movie. It's
you know,
very
in the
funny.
Bronx, we don't care what you look like. All right.
So wait, let me go back to this. This is the guy that wrote Green Book.
Yes.
He won an Oscar.
And then he's in this the next year.
And now he's the bodyguard.
He's Nick the Giant Bodyguard.
Yes.
It's fall from grace right there.
But he's who I want to talk about, Kathy, about what John Travolta's next movie is.
Okay.
So he's been like he wrote Green Book and he won an Oscar. And everyone's like, what's he gonna do next? Is he gonna write like more mob movies or something? And he's like, no, I'm working on something really special. Then no one hears about it for several years. Something that's all right. My next movie is called That's Amore, and we're like, all right, what's this about?
Dean Martin.
It is the title, but not the story.
Okay.
And then several months ago, the cast for this movie gets announced. Okay. It is a Little Italy, New Jersey romance starring John Travolta and Katherine Heigl, also starring Christopher Walken.
Bringing it back to grace.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this might be the best movie ever made if it comes out.
I'm going to keep that soundbite of you saying That's Amore could be the best movie ever made. So when it does come out and it's not the best movie ever made.
It's Nick Veneer is a modern-day Marty. He's never been married, and his best dating years are well behind him. He's never heard the words I love you and figures he never will. Patty Amore, her last name is Amore, has her share of problems as well. Shy and introverted, she's filled with various tics and nervous habits. A secret from her past, combined with her overprotective father, have caused her to withdraw from the dating game. When Nick and Patty meet, literally bumping into each other, they share an immediate connection. When these two emotionally damaged people attempt to date one another, their families get involved, and the results are hilarious.
I'm worried. I'm really worried.
That's Amore.
Wait, Katherine Heigl. Who was the other one you said?
Christopher Walken and Travolta.
Okay.
Travolta's playing the male love interest. Katherine Heigl's the female love interest.
What if it was Christopher Walken was the male love interest?
Well, I'm betting Christopher Walken's playing her dad, her overprotective father.
But what if it was Christopher Walken playing the love
What if
interest?
it was?
I mean,
That's
Amore.
oh man.
What's
I'm
her
not
name in the movie?
Patty Amore.
Patty. Don't you know, baby?
Patty, don't you know you're gonna have to get married?
Oh, you guys are
Your
good.
daddy wants grandbabies.
I don't know about her as Patty Amore though. I mean, she's a little white for
It's
that,
a little
isn't she?
strange.
It's a little strange.
She's like not Italian looking at all.
Yeah, no. Heigl is decidedly not an Italian last name.
No. I mean,
What is it, like German?
Heigl, last name, origin.
What about a little Marissa Tomei in this movie? No, I mean,
She would be great.
She would be
Yeah.
really good in
Yeah.
this.
And she's a little more of Travolta's age than Katherine Heigl.
Right, right.
But basically, you know, we've been covering every time a new Travolta movie comes out, we go back and cover it.
Okay.
And Stuart's like, "What is the point of this?" I'm like, "Firstly, we have to cover the entire filmography. Secondly, I really want to talk about That's Amore, so we have to keep doing this at minimum until That's Amore comes out."
Kathy, here's my problem, though.
Okay.
When we're like 5 actors deep in this podcast, and each of these 5 actors keeps coming out with a movie per year, that means we have to interrupt our podcast like up to like 5 times. Maybe even
5 times
more.
a year.
If they do one
we do
movie,
55 episodes
if they
a year.
do one movie, if they do 2 each, that's 10. I only have so much time.
You can only talk about John Travolta so
Life-
much, right?
In the words of Cole Bradley, life is too short. Life is too short.
Cole Bradley.
Okay?
Who's
Blast
coming
from
back
the
to
past.
Chicago.
He is.
He's moving back to Chicago in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, when this episode's coming out, he has already been here, and he's probably listening to this like, "Jeff, why'd you just expose that I'm moving
And
to
his
Chicago?"
address is 9371 East Western Avenue.
And isn't Richie B the first Cole Bradley buddy?
Yes, he was the original Cole Bradley friend.
Yes. He was.
And then Cole, you know, found his way into all of our hearts
That's-
and into our ears.
I seen a cute picture of Mary Grace and him at your wedding.
Yeah, they had a really good time
Yeah,
together.
that's sweet.
Nick Vallelonga, that's where we were. I was like, where were
We
we
were
talking about?
5 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
We're 40 minutes into this podcast.
So Travolta decides he has to get out of Dodge.
he
Which
goes to his office.
coincides with him
Yeah.
running into this woman
I don't know why I did the Spider-Man
named
3 thing.
Violet. Her name is Violet Gregory. Is that it?
You go to the iPad.
Oh no, her scenes were done. I can't find what the actress playing this character's name is. But it's like this.
But it doesn't matter because she's only in this part of the movie.
She hires Travolta to go to the town of Galveston to investigate the disappearance of
Her aunt,
of her aunt,
who's in a nursing home.
Barbara Poole.
Or not a nursing home, in a psychiatric facility.
Yes.
See, I have no recollection. This is I started it
Yeah.
Thursday night. That I have no recollection of that. I fell asleep and I lost that whole
The
section.
first
I
time
know.
we covered this movie, I do not remember why he had to go to Galveston in the first place.
Okay.
It's because
I feel better.
This woman comes in and is like, "Help me find my aunt," and you're like, "Okay, she'll be a character." And then this
Opens out her
person
checkbook.
never
Name your price.
reappears.
No. He tries
No.
to call her, and it's like the number is disconnected. That's all. That's all we get.
I believe I think the inference at the end is that Famke Janssen orchestrated
Yeah.
hiring her to
yeah.
come to
Okay.
the town.
There was something with that, but that was hard to understand.
The thing is, the movie wraps up so quick at the end that it's just like, yeah, I hired her, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Don't want to talk about this?
yeah.
I was kind of happy about that. I was like, okay, good. Let's wrap this
Let's get
baby
this
up
over.
so I could.
So I can finish.
Right.
He goes back to Galveston, and it's like, Texas, the land of my spoils. I don't know.
He's listing the things that Texas is known for.
27-ounce steaks, beautiful women,
And I like the way he says this. And the holiest of holies.
bull riding. Because he's going to Texas to be a bull rider.
Yeah, what if he had gone back to Texas and this is a stealth sequel to Urban Cowboy and suddenly, God, what's her name?
Sissy?
No, she was in Terms of Endearment and Urban Cowboy.
Yeah. What her real name you're saying?
Oh.
I'm saying Sissy.
Sissy, yes.
Yeah.
Deborah Winger.
Deborah Winger.
Deborah Winger.
Like, what if she bumps
Wow.
into him in Galveston and is like, you? He's like, you.
Remember when they're all talking about you used to be a great football quarterback? What if instead of that they're like, you used to be the best bull rider in Texas? I remember when your Uncle Bob.
We can't. We can't do that.
We
to him.
haven't talked about Uncle Bob.
We can't.
It's
We
been
can't. There is no time to talk about Uncle
40
Bob.
years.
40 years
Why-
too soon.
Wait, why are we?
Uncle Bob and Urban Cowboy
You're right.
explodes. I'm not kidding you. You think I'm joking? I'm not. He explodes in Urban Cowboy. Ask me how he explodes.
How?
By a bolt of lightning.
When we covered Urban Cowboy, I was really caught off guard by how Uncle Bob's on top of a power facility. And he's just like, yeah, boy. And then like a lightning bolt just hits him. A massive explosion occurs and Uncle Bob's dead. And I'm like, what? Whoa.
Comes out of nowhere.
This is like a very charming, romantic drama about Travolta and bull riding and Deborah Winger. And then suddenly Uncle Bob is killed in a massive explosion.
And it's the motivation he needs
Yeah.
to get back on the bull.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. He gives him the belt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the joke you said, Jeff, I remember it's like he gives him like, what was it, like a belt buckle or
Yeah.
something?
Right.
And he's like, this was Uncle Bob's. He would have wanted you to have this. He exploded for you to have this. I think it was that was like a joke you said during it.
I like, they always have to have like, the mentor who dies in those type of movies. And
Yeah.
I understand that. It's just like,
So disrespectful.
it was just like really funny. Like normally it's like they have a stroke or they have a heart attack or like some accident occurs. It's just crazy that in that movie it's like act of God destroys a power facility and Uncle Bob happens to be in it.
And if you think we had a great time talking about that episode, you should watch all the episodes after that and count the amount of times we mentioned Uncle Bob. He's stuck with us.
Remember Life on the Line?
I remember Life on the Line.
The
the
movie where
spirit-
Travolta
Uncle Bob's himself.
yeah.
I don't know this one.
It's this 2015 movie called Life on the Line.
Okay.
The end of the movie is
Have you seen Ladder 49?
Yes.
So think of that movie, except instead of like a patriotic memorabilia movie about firefighters,
Right.
a patriotic memorabilia movie about electrical line workers.
Oh boy.
and Travolta's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
and so the end of the movie, there's like a big storm coming through, wherever the hell their thing is, and Travolta is faced with
They're
the
in
craziest
Texas, too.
set of circumstances, in which he is at a power facility trying to turn power back on during the storm with his partner, while at the same time his daughter,
who's pregnant,
who is pregnant, was just shot
by
a jealous neighbor
Oh wow.
who thinks that she's having an affair with their something.
There's a PTSD veteran.
Oh yeah,
in
no,
this.
it's a PTSD rattled veteran who the storm kind of reactivates his PTSD, who goes next door and accidentally shoots Travolta's pregnant daughter, who's rushed to the hospital, but the power goes out in the hospital.
And the
Oh my
backup
gosh.
generators go off and they have to do surgery, but they don't have any lights. And so then while he's at the power facility, John Travolta and his buddy, he gets a call and he's like, hello? And it's like, it's Bailey. She's been shot. There's no power in the hospital. And he's like, what? What is going on?
He's like really stressed in this moment.
It's like, you got to direct the power or else she's going to die. So he hangs up and then he gets to like the top of this power converter thing. There's like these turntile switches that he has to turn to redirect the power, but one of them's stuck. And it's like this little like switch thing that he has to like do it with like
He has a wrench and it's not turning.
and it's not turning.
And he knows that like if he hits it, it's gonna like electrocute him.
But it's like
Oh.
hot with electricity
Oh.
surging through it. So what he does is he looks down at his comrade, be like, "Tell Bailey I love her," and then he looks up to the sky. Uncle Bob from Urban Cowboy,
it's in the cloud.
Listen, in the shape of a cloud, comes in and says, "Remember who you are." And then he looks up, tears coming down his eyes, jumps up, pushes his body on the switch, shocking him and exploding him in the same moment.
No.
But redirects the power to the hospital, and it cuts to her in the operating table. She's like, coming back to life.
I want to watch this movie now.
It's so entertaining. It's so bad, but it's so entertaining. I got so excited during that finale because like the way right before he dies, he holds the wrench up in the air
Yeah.
and then brings it down like this, and there's a lightning crackle behind him. And I thought what was about to happen is lightning was going to strike the wrench, electrify it, and then he was going to hit the thing.
And then so you would live?
No, but just like it would be cool
Oh,
because
okay.
Like a Thor
like I thought he was about
Okay.
to like Thor like summon lightning
Okay.
into his hammer and hit the thing. But that doesn't happen. And instead he just explodes and like flip-flops off the roof.
I'm thinking Armageddon. Is that no? What's
It
that
is
movie?
the Armageddon ending.
It is
It
kind of
is.
the Armageddon ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like the great. I love that ending. You know, it's so So stupid.
So
but
good.
Doesn't he say it's hell? What's her name in that movie? So many
find
questions.
out. Precious few answers. So
Yeah.
Tell Grace.
Yeah, Grace.
Tell Grace I love her.
Yeah.
It's just the way
Yeah.
Travolta says it with his thick Texas, because
Oh,
that movie
sure.
also takes place in Texas.
Really?
Yep, and he's like, "Tell Bailey I love her."
Oh, I gotta watch this.
Oh, it's so good. I highly recommend it. It's where, and it's also, when we ended the hair ranking on Travolta, there's a flashback scene where it shows what he was before he was an electrical line worker. He was a biker,
Okay.
and he looks like a biker.
Really?
Beard
No.
down to here. Hair down to here.
I gotta watch this.
And he's got a bandana, sunglasses, the leather jacket with the cigarette stains and all that. Like, number one hair ranking. I ranked it number one. How can you not?
He seems like a guy that really. Well, I think I've heard him talk about this too. Like he really, the costumes, everything is so part of
so
his.
big to him.
Right, it's so big to his
Yeah.
his performances.
In this, he looks like a sad lion. He goes to Galveston to just speed run this movie. The first place he goes is the psychiatric institution, where he tries to meet Barbara. He's kind of given the runaround, and that's where he's introduced to Brendan Fraser as Dr.
Miles Mitchell.
I'm sorry, she's in group therapy right now. You have to wait a couple
I can't
hours.
help you. But
He's like,
if you like, you can,
I'll
you
just
can
wait.
stick around. Stick around and wait for me.
And so he does.
I'd love to talk to you later.
Well, sorry to let you know, she's not available the rest of the day. It's like, Brendan, what are you doing, buddy?
You do that really well, Jeff.
Yeah.
Almost too well.
How about him combing his hair?
Yes, and Brendan, like, he kind of is like, he's very thinning hair in this.
Yeah.
But doesn't he like swoop it over? And
Yeah,
then
he does the comb over.
Yeah, he does something
His
bizarre.
character intro is like interesting. It's when he opens his mouth and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Right.
And so Travolta breaks into his office.
Yeah.
To try and like determine what he can find. And he opens like the patient files and gets a bunch of incriminating pictures.
They're taking bets on the other football team.
Yeah, that they're taking bets against the hometown team.
Yeah. And there's all these patient files of people who died a long time ago.
Yeah.
He could have figured out the ending of this movie right then.
Yeah.
Like
He had all the
If he was
had-
a good PI,
he
could have.
had all the answers right
The thing
then.
is, at the end of the movie, we see that the meth lab operation is literally in like the greenhouse
Yeah.
that has just
Right.
a door to the outside.
Yeah.
Had he just gone down the stairs, he could have found he could have figured this all out immediately.
Yeah.
And instead, he's in this like cockamamie scheme, with, like where he involves all these other people.
Yeah.
So many dead people die.
So then he goes to this not a casino.
Well, no. So he's in the office, and Brendan comes in, and so he has to escape, and so he clambers out the window, and he finds himself on the roof. He has no way to escape, except for at the there's a tree at the end, and so he just like decides he's gonna run and jump and grab onto the tree
Yes.
and like kind of like a superhero ride it down, and he jumps and he grabs it and the branch falls off and he hits the ground, and ladies and gentlemen, I just have to say, John Travolta.
There it is.
That was it. I wrote that down in my notes. John Travolta.
Oh God, I love it. I really am laughing because he kept looking at me like, "Here it comes, here it comes." Oh.
Wow, great joke, Jeff.
Thanks.
That was such a good joke.
There's good build up to it, I thought.
Laughing internally.
John Travolta.
I laugh for both of us.
Get it? Because his name's John Travolta and he jumps on a tree.
Oh.
John Travolta.
Wait, so it's because he jumps on the tree, you
Yeah.
replace the truss, so it's tree. Got
Volta.
it. Okay. Okay.
I like it. I
You
get
can almost say he's like vaulting over. Or
Yeah, he
something.
vaults onto the
He
tree.
vaults onto the
He
tree.
tree vaults.
Tree
round
vaults.
of applause for me.
John Travolta.
Yeah.
Then he nearly die voltas.
Yeah. But
But he
thankfully, the
awakens-
paranoid schizophrenic
But
helps
then
him
he
up.
wake up
Right.
voltas.
Yeah. No, these aren't working.
What if I
These aren't
just
funny.
What if I just keep doing this? What if I just this is the rest of the bit, the whole podcast?
That would be.
Thank
good.
you for listening, Volta, to this podcast, Volta.
I mean, we covered the plot in the last episode, so now that I've gotten to my joke, do we
Yeah.
want to just kind
That
of
was what you were waiting
Thanks for
on.
listening.
no, not that we could just wrap it up, but like we don't. I
That's
don't think
kind
we,
of what you were saying.
I don't think we have to do beat by beat anymore. I decided to do beat by beat so I could get to him jumping onto the
to do
tree.
the tree Volta
Yeah.
joke.
Well, let's. What else can we?
Well, he talks to Morgan Freeman,
Yeah,
and he meets Robert Patrick, who's the sheriff.
yeah.
And
Slide, played by Peter Stormare, who's a
yeah.
former hillbilly or hippie.
yeah, and then
Because I know when I see, Dutch actor Peter Stormare,
Yeah.
or is it Swedish? I think it's Swedish. The first thing I think is Texan hillbilly.
yeah, and then the hitmen come after him again, but he kills them this time.
Yes, a bunch of hitmen. Well, first the mob boss, who he owes money to from
Yeah.
LA, comes.
Yeah.
Never see him ever again.
Yeah,
after that.
and he doesn't like do anything. He's just like, tell me where you brought my wife to. And he's like, no, and he's like, all right, that's fair. And then he leaves.
Right.
It's really weird. Like,
Yeah.
you would expect him to like torture him or like question him more, but he's like, all right, I guess you're not going to tell me. He walks away, and they send hitmen after him.
Not
that's it.
necessary.
Yeah, from LA, and the hitmen fail to kill him.
He kills them.
He kills them, and then we never hear about LA again.
No,
Nope.
because this is his home.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm skipping over. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry.
Much like Jake Sully, he finds out that home is where he's always been.
Home is Galveston, Texas.
Yeah.
Galveston, Texas.
He
He
talks to Famke Janssen, Ella, Bleu Travolta.
discovers that she's his daughter,
Yeah.
and that
Oh my God.
she's the number
we're
one suspect for killing her husband. who
Happy.
dies in a happy.
That
Who-
was kind of weird,
Who
isn't it?
dies in a football game.
Right.
But he was poisoned.
Yeah.
Oh.
We'll figure out what he got poisoned by later, but they all
Yeah.
think it's Brendan Fraser, who's the doctor of the meth lab.
Yes.
Right.
So he goes back to the meth lab, digs a hole, finds a body. Fraser pulls out, and he's wearing eyeliner. And he's holding a gun very like flamboyantly. It's like,
And he has
Mr. Carson.
wait, this is his vibe.
You know the audience can't see you, right? Jeff is getting out off a hat, like a little
So
top.
as you can see, I'm wearing the hat like this. This is how I would wear a hat.
I could see it. The
This is how
audience
I'd wear
can't
a
see
hat.
it.
This is how Brendan's wearing the hat.
He tilted the hat on
Ladies
sideways.
and gentlemen, how you doing?
Yeah, the hat is tilted on sideways. Mr. Carson, I'm gonna have to shoot you now.
I'm gonna have to shoot you now.
And he's like, "Well, that would be a bad thing." Ah!
Yeah.
He attacks him. Somehow doesn't die, and then the other drug dealers come after him. There's a massive
shootout.
massive explosion.
He blows up the meth
Blows
lab.
up the meth lab. Robert Patrick shows up at the end of this. Oh, and the patients kill Fraser.
Yeah, so he gets Fraser, and Fraser's like,
Oh,
I'll
that's-
confess. And then the paranoid schizophrenic shoots him in the back with a shotgun.
And they all start. They're like,
Yeah!
yay,
Woo!
right.
And then the psychiatric hospital explodes.
Robert Patrick shows up. It's like, well, this was a mess. Yes, it was. And then he leaves.
Yeah, he's like, let's Travolta go.
Let's Travolta go.
Because Travolta's like, you might get reelected next year for figuring all this out. He's like, I bet I would. We call it that.
That's it. He goes back to Famke Janssen, he goes back to Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman's like, yep, she sold me the oil wells that her husband gave to her after he died, so now I have the oil wells. It'll never be enough. I never lose, Carson.
I can't quite figure out the scheme in this movie.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
So, Morgan Freeman is like the kingpin
Yes.
of Galveston, Texas.
Right.
He has like a drug operations. He's got like casinos, hotels. He runs pretty much everything. But meanwhile, on the side, Dr. Miles Mitchell, Brendan Fraser, links up with a couple other guys in the town to start making meth.
Okay.
They start dealing this meth. And while that's happening on the side, the football player, Happy, is helping Brendan Fraser out by rigging the games so he wins their bets. And so, but what's also happening is Happy is married to Famke Janssen's daughter, Becky, played by Ella Bleu Travolta, and he's abusive, and he hits her and all
Right.
that stuff. So, but also the other part of Brendan Fraser's scheme is that he it's an old like nursing home psychiatric hospital that takes in a bunch of rich people's older family members who they don't keep in touch with. So when they die, they keep billing the family members.
Right.
So he's doing that. Brendan Fraser's doing 3 things. He's cooking and selling meth. He's billing dead patients' families, and he's rigging football games.
Wow.
Yes.
Whereas Morgan Freeman just owns all the shit. It's pretty much it. While Famke Janssen, whose husband died, owned a bunch of oil wells.
Okay.
So we got these 3 things.
Yes.
Well, 6 things.
There's a lot.
There's a lot of things. So where this all connects is Barbara Van Poel, who is a patient at Brendan Fraser's thing, has a relative who was hired by Famke Janssen to hire John Travolta, Carson Phillips, to come investigate the missing person, which would put him there at Galveston, Texas, when Famke Janssen would plan to poison the husband, her son-in-law, who's beating and abusing her daughter.
Right.
So when she dies, she has a way of being like, oh, Carson, you just happen to be in town. What if I hired you to protect my daughter? Wink, wink, wink. Because she's going to be the prime suspect.
Right.
So then he finds out all the schemes of Brendan Fraser, that he's billing dead patients, cooking a meth lab, and rigging football things, anything, all those things combined, he must have poisoned the football player to ensure that he would win the bet.
Right.
And they think they're going to get a confession, but then Brendan Fraser gets shot and killed. Goes back to Morgan Freeman, who owns Robert Patrick, the sheriff, who is pressuring the sheriff to pressure Famke Janssen about pressuring the daughter, because if they pressure the daughter and almost arrest her, they can negotiate Famke Janssen to sell the oil wells to Morgan Freeman. So which they do that, but then Fraser is able to talk Morgan Freeman out of putting pressure on the daughter, and then he goes back, lives with them as a family, finds out Famke Janssen has cancer, poisoned the football player with cancer because she just really didn't like her son-in-law because he was beating her daughter.
Right.
And the movie ends.
Wow. And good night.
I like that Travolta finds out that Famke Janssen orchestrated all this, and then it's still like, I'm gonna still marry you.
Because that literally is how it ends.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, she'll do anything to protect her daughter.
Yeah.
That's how they're
Mama?
saying it, right?
did you kill my husband?
So this was you explaining all that right now. It's the Pepe Sylvia image.
But I literally counted. There are 6 schemes going on in this town. He gets hired to solve one of them, and then gets dragged into solving the rest.
Yeah, he kind of accidentally blows everything out of the water and helps Morgan Freeman become a monopoly kingpin.
Now, this movie is so kind of simple and like my 56-year-old brain would like kind of loses track when it gets too complicated.
Yeah.
I start looking at my iPad and just, but like I was mostly following this just because it was, I don't want to say simple because but the way they did it was almost so stupid.
Yes.
That it was confusing, but like not confusing. I know that
Well, because none of it
how do
really
I say that?
relates to the other.
Yeah.
Is the
Right,
really confusing part about it. Is like the meth lab does not relate to him billing dead patients, which does also not relate to him rigging football games.
Yes.
None of that relates to the fact that Morgan Freeman wants the oil wells, so he puts pressure on Famke Janssen, who happens to have her son-in-law had just recently killed, who knows that the daughter's going to be the prime suspect because he cheated on her and abused her. Like, none of it relates. None of it connects. Yeah. It's all 6 separate different things.
I like when you watch like a noir or a detective movie and you finally piece it all together in your head. And it feels really good when it all connects.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
When you watch this one and it finally connects, you're like, wait, what?
Right.
What is this?
Right.
Yeah, none of it really connects at the end of it. And the movie ends. They're like, okay, we're done.
Right. And I was like, okay, good.
So, wait,
So the movie made $200 million, and no, it did not.
Oh, look at me. I was like, I gave you one of the like, oh, really? What did it make?
Probably like no money. How much was it even made for?
Why is he still doing these?
Jeff, this podcast? Kathy, ask myself that question every single day.
This movie is released. It's never released in the U.S. in theaters. It's only released direct to video streaming. It is released in Russia in theaters.
Really?
As well as the United Arab Emirates, Portugal, and Lithuania.
Oh, wow.
It overall makes $323,000 at the box office in those countries.
Oh.
But I presume, because it doesn't release in the U.S. or China, which are the bigger venues, that probably just it made some money on streaming. The reason they keep making all these cheap streaming movies is because they do make money in some way.
Okay.
People I rented this movie's on Netflix now.
Yeah.
So people watch it and probably makes it probably just barely breaks even, makes them a little bit of money.
Yeah.
From suckers like me who rent this stuff and own Money Plane on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, fun fact: the house that Famke Janssen lives in this movie is Paula Deen's house.
Oh wow!
Really?
Yeah, it's Paula Deen. They filmed it in Paula Deen's house.
Well, how sweet. Paula Deen, supporter of the Poison Rose.
Yeah.
Was she in the special thanks section of the credits?
I didn't see.
Special thanks, Paula Deen.
It would be funny if she was in there. But yeah, this movie wraps up. It doesn't make any money. No one really sees it.
Doesn't do anything for Fraser's career.
Thankfully.
Right.
Doesn't do anything for Travolta's career.
Yeah.
No.
Thankfully.
Yeah. I mean, it actually does more for Travolta than it does for Fraser, in the sense that by doing something for Travolta, people are like, he's doing another one of these? Whereas for Fraser, it does give him a movie, which is at least a step back in the door of Hollywood.
Yeah.
I will say at one point, I'm trying to remember when, I actually turned to my husband and I said, oh no, I'm actually starting to get a little interested. Something happened that kind of got me. It was like, okay, wait, what's going to happen? I knew I had to watch it, but I was like, oh,
something
happened that I was like, oh no, something bad's happening. I'm getting interested in this movie now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really like the poster for this poster for this movie, in which Travolta's face is CGI'd onto someone else's body.
Oh wow!
Very much.
That's the picture that it's from. He's just wearing a leather jacket he never wears in this movie. I just wanted to look at that.
Clearly wasn't available for the photo shoot.
Yeah,
he keeps trying.
Maybe that's Amore will be the.
I hope so, Jeff.
I'm really hoping so.
I do too. I mean,
I don't think it will.
Stuart.
Hi.
Be a believer, Stuart.
I believe in Brendan Fraser.
I believe in America.
All right. I think that's it, right?
Yeah, I think. Kathy, you have anything final to say about the Poison Rose?
No. How do I wrap up the Poison Rose? I love being with you guys. Thanks for inviting me back. I always like talking about John Travolta.
The classics.
And that's it. I mean, I really have nothing else to say about the Poison Rose. I honestly.
Stuart, any final thoughts about the Poison Rose?
I'm just glad we were able to bring Kathy back for another episode.
Yes.
That's really all it is.
It was such a joy, because when we realized we were going to have to do this again, I was like, what can we possibly talk about again? And I was like, well, we bring Kathy back to talk about the Travolta of it all.
It's perfect.
My guy.
Yeah, so
My guy.
Thank you so much for coming back.
Thanks, guys, for having me. It was an enjoyable afternoon.
Yeah.
And to the listener at home, thank you so much for listening to this episode on the Poison Rose. Make sure to tune in next week for episode on Line of Descent. We'll be joined by Justin Campbell again. Yeah, again.
He's going for the Tilly Club.
He's going for the Tilly Club. He will not succeed. Tilly will make sure of that. But thank you all so much for listening. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. As a reminder, we are available on Spotify, Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. You can find us on social media at Travolting Pod. We are on Instagram. We are still on Twitter until it explodes.
We're also on Threads now?
We're on Threads.
I saw that.
And
that was a surprise.
And very soon we will be on Blue Sky.
Oh, my God.
Once I get an invite code.
Blue Sky?
Yeah.
What is that?
Blue Sky is like the good Twitter replacement. It's literally because Twitter is just kind of a nightmare now, or X, because as he renamed it, it's hellish to use. Nothing works, and there's so many added features that just take up so much time to. Blue Sky is literally just a feed. It's you can just follow people and you get a feed, and that's it.
Great.
It's great.
Great.
Because Twitter's losing users by the day, so we're all looking for the replacement.
I'm the mom. I'm still on Facebook.
I'm still on Facebook.
You are?
I gotta get our Facebook back.
Facebook and Instagram is all I have.
Yeah.
Me too.
But we're on all the social medias. Make sure to subscribe to us on those. It'll be great. You can email us, travoltingpodcast@gmail.com, Reddit, r/Travolting. You can find me on Twitter at Jeff W. Sweeney. Special thanks, as always, to Rebecca Johnson for the graphic design and Michael Van Bodegum Smith for the theme music that is now taking you out. See you next week for a Line of Descent.